Hi everyone! So, Courageous Heart is getting ever closer to publication, so I thought I would talk a little bit about that book today, because I could just go on and on, but I'm going to answer some specific questions and, yeah, go from there. So the first question is about the setting, and is it a real place? I mean, technically yes. It's set in the United States, but it's in the future, in the early 24th century, around there. I haven't really pinned down an exact date necessarily, but it's in the early 24th century. It's not really sci-fi necessarily. I mean, there's some technological stuff in the science because it's the future, but it's not. I mean, I wouldn't say my novel is very sci-fi. It's much more action, adventure oriented. Anyway. The next question is, why did you set your book there? Because that's where it needed to be set. I don't know. I don't always make these decisions consciously. They just happen. And then I go, yeah, absolutely. That's a great place to put a book. I don't know. It just happens. And does it have any personal meaning? Not really. It's just the future where Cassie and Cindy live and are, trying to save the world. There's nothing personal about it. So the next question is about characters. Can you tell I'm reading the questions down there? They're on my computer, but I didn't want to take time to write them down or print them out, and you don't have them closer, so I'm like, anyway, that's sidetracking. Is there any particular character styled after a real person? Not really. I mean, there's facets of my characters that you could say resemble people that I know, or myself. Obviously myself. All the characters are extensions of myself in some form, but none of the characters in this book are, like, specifically one person or another person. Like, I don't really do, like, inspired characters. Sometimes I'll use people's names, people I know, but not in this book. No. Do the characters have personal meaning for you in some way? I mean, they're my characters, and they're very special, and I love them. But no, I don't really, there's no, like, special meaning behind any of my characters. I just love them all because they're mine. I don't know. So, next question. The moment the idea for the story came, was it a eureka moment or gradual? For Courageous Heart, it was a sequel, so it was kind of gradual. It was just, I knew I needed to write the sequel, but where that story was going to go was sort of gradual and happened during the outlining process. I don't know. For the first book in the series, for Isolated, it wasn't really a eureka moment, but it happened while I was reading The Giver. I could suddenly picture Cassie living in Single State, and then the story was just born. I don't know. It just happened. How did your book get published? I did it myself. It's actually not published yet. It's in the process. But, yeah, I self-publish all of my novels. Because I'm not patient, and I didn't want to go through lots of years of rejection slips and stuff before I got a publisher, and two, because I want full and complete control over my works. I don't want anyone telling me what to do with them, so I decided to go self-publishing, which not everyone necessarily agrees with, but they're my books. Do what you want with yours. What kind of research goes into making this book? Courageous Heart didn't have a whole lot of research, because it's set in the future, so I'm kind of making stuff up as I go along. Like all of the technology and nonsense of the future is just made up in my head. It's not a lot of research. I have done some-ish research, mostly about, like, edible plants and things that you can find in the wild, because I'm not really an expert on that, and that is a small portion of the book. But this book didn't have a lot of research. My historical novels have a lot more research, but Finding Hope is not really one of the projects that does a lot of research. Do you enjoy the research? I love researching. But again, with this book, I did not do a lot of researching because it didn't require that. But when I do get to do research, I love it. Like, I've been working on The Tragedy of the Traitor in the last week, and I've been doing a lot of research on that because it's set, in the late 12th century. And I already did some research on that since it's the 4th novel in that series, so I do know that time period fairly well. But there's always more to learn about the past, so I do a lot of research for that, and I absolutely love it. And the last thing is talk about books or novels that inspired this one, which I already said. I was reading The Giver when I got the idea for Isolated. And then Courageous Heart was just the natural sequel. It just happened that way. I'm not sure where in the writing process I decided that it was a trilogy. It was somewhere while I was writing Isolated, which is the first book. Ada, what you doing? Ada! Sorry, brother-in-law got home. Dog went crazy. Anyway, that was basically the end. That was the last question. What inspired me was The Giver. What was I talking about? Oh, when it became a trilogy. Somewhere while I was writing Isolated, I realized that I had 3 stories to tell. So then I decided to write a trilogy. And I'm about to publish the second one. I outlined the 3rd one recently. I don't know. That's all I've got. Anyway, there'll be a link to Isolated in the description and the rest of my books. I don't know. Happy writing.